What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, we're back at it for part 2 of a 3-part series that I like to title Whoever's the Fastest Gets to Prey. Now in part 1 we went on ahead and reviewed the dialogue from both Alvina the Cat and Shiva of the East. And in that dialogue we basically talked about who the real gankers were after a nice review of those two dialogues. Right, so this is basically part 2. This is featuring my strength mage. Alright. Number 1, I'm already familiar with using strength weapons, but I decided to go ahead and pair off my strength weapons with castings. And like I said before, I really like this build. I really enjoy it. It definitely has its limitations. It has really low defenses. And actually, I got some suggestions. And actually, shout out to Short Dude, because originally I was using the Iron Gauntlets with the Sorcerer's outfit and the hollow leggings. And he's like, dude, I mean, if you want more defense, why don't you just go ahead and use either the Elite or the Knight Gauntlets? And actually, I forgot about the Gauntlets. So I went on ahead and used the Elite Knight Gauntlets. So with the Elite Knight Gauntlets, I have, I think my defense is like 300, right? Not 330, not 380, not 360. I think it's somewhere in the low 300, and if it's not exactly 300, it's in the low 3s, like 310 or 311 or something like that. So not only do I have low defense, right, but I also have only 1500 vitality. Right, 1500 vitality. Now most of my bids, most of my builds actually use 1700. Now, granted, some of you guys may say, well, 200 is not really all that much in the grand scheme of things. And actually, looking at 200, it actually isn't a lot. But I don't know, especially when you're facing against two guys, you know, if you're not one of those, you know, power within red tear stone dudes that are Wrath or Gotten for like 12 million, 1500 vitality is kind of challenging, especially when you don't have a lot of defense. But despite that limitation, I really like this build, especially during random invasions. Now, you know, I've had a few formal matchups with this build, and actually, like I've said in part 1, I have a series against good old Bruno, wherein he'll be using his gargoyle build, which is basically a dedication to the gargoyles over in the parish. Actually, I can't say it's a dedication. I think maybe he just decided to create a build themed after it. Right, so you guys will be able to see that in a little 1v1 action. Alright, so we're back at it. 2v1, fighting these people who do not belong, and I got them with the high speed. Actually, it wasn't really a one-shot because I was able to inflict a little damage previous to that. And if you guys notice, I won't be using a Crown of Dusk, because one thing about me, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, knock people out with one hit. Now, I'm not saying people won't get one-shotted. What I'm saying is I don't have the intent to stack all these magic boosting items with the deliberate intent to one-shot. And this is why you guys will see me using my halberd, using all kind of things. And actually, you guys noticed that? That was a full headshot. And even though I'm using the 10 crystallization catalyst, I only got like 700 damage. I didn't even get, you know, 1500 damage or something like that. And I mean, now, why would I say 1500 or 1700 damage? Basically because I've been one-shotted on a number of occasions. On a number of occasions I've been one-shotted with full vitality. Full vitality. You know, you run into one of these guys who they're using their Bellowing Crest ring, you know, Bellowing Crest, Crown of Dusk, and a 10 crystallization catalyst, and in extreme cases they'll also use the red tearstone ring. They are the type of guys who are trying to one-shot people. But guess what? It's not really a challenge in my personal opinion when all you're doing is running up to somebody and spamming the dark bead, dark bead, dark bead, dark bead. It's really not exciting. I'm in it for trying to improve my tactics. And a good mage, in my personal opinion, not knocking the spammers. I mean, if you guys want to spam, go ahead and spam. But we're just talking about my own standard. My goal is to improve my tactics, regardless of the build that I use. If I'm using a caster build, my goal is to incorporate castings in addition to melee attacks. Right? My goal is not just to one-shot people with castings that I know are really overpowered in some cases. Now, just because they're overpowered doesn't mean that they're easy to use. Why do I say that? Well, case in point, Soul Spear and Crystal Soul Spear. Those castings, in my opinion, are not necessarily easy to use. Right? Because, I mean, the Soul Spear and Crystal Soul Spear basically hit in a straight line. So with that straight line attack, it is not always easy to hit your opponent, especially when your opponent is either, moving to the left or the right, or they're playing unlocked. It's not really easy. So yes, if you get hit with it, it's dangerous. But in a lot of cases, I mean, you're really taking a chance with trying to get a successful hit. Now, are there some tactics you can use that can make the chances of you hitting with a Soul Spear or Crystal Soul Spear more likely? Of course there's tactics. But, I mean, you cannot deny that they are not the easiest to be successful with, especially when you compare them with something similar to a dark bead. Now, a dark bead, it's a lot more easy to hit, right? Because not only can you knock someone out with a headshot, but you could also hit people off at a distance, right? Especially if you unlock and kind of point your castings somewhat upward, right? Because in some cases you'll shoot at the ground, but if you kind of unlock and kind of tilt your camera upward, you can kind of shoot more toward the face. And I know some of these dark bead guys will also use that tactic as well. Alright, now, how this happened, I don't really know. And actually, let me take that back. I do know. I think the host just went on ahead and summoned a red, and he just decided to disappear. But guess what? I'm not trying to fight those guys. And here we go. Because, here's the guy that I need to go after. I didn't really come here to fight any dark wraiths. I mean, I will if he kind of approaches me, but at the end of the day, I'm here for the host. Alright, so I got a high-speed pancake right there. I hate when that happens. And speaking of the devil, we got a nice hornet ring. So it looks like I just might be out of there. And actually, looks like the dark wraith went on ahead and tightened up my forge, bro. But guess what? We both have our vitality up. Now, one thing that I hate, I know some of you guys like to spectate, but come on, dude, kind of stay off at a distance, please. Because when you're that close, sometimes, for whatever reason, the reticle will switch from your target onto you. Right? And when that happens, in some cases, that can throw the whole game off. So, now, his distance is a little better now, but when he was standing over there, I basically got lucky. Because I've been in situations when I've been in either formal matchups or in random invasions, and maybe a spectator is just kind of standing off to the side, and basically I'll get thrown off track because my reticle switches. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you guys kind of invade and you see two people already actively fighting, please try not to stand too close to the fighters, especially when they're using a caster build, specifically sorceries, right? Because I've been in situations where I'm in a 1v1, someone else will arrive, and I have the Homing Crystal Soul Mask fired up. And instead of firing at the intended target, my homing crystal soul mass will engage the spectator and not the person that it's intended to be aimed at. And I always thought to myself, like, man, now that's another wasted homing crystal soul mass because this guy want to stand too close to the match. Alright, got him for 655 damage. And I'll take care of you too. Oh, actually, maybe not. Now, you guys notice that damage. And that's not even with the Crown of Dusk. So imagine the type of damage that I would have with the Crown of Dusk. Or even if I didn't use the Crown of Dusk, I paired off the 10 crystallization catalyst with the Bellowing Crest Ring. That would definitely be OP. Alright. So it looks like we're going to have a little 1v1 action going on. So let's see what this guy's going to do. Okay, it looks like he's got the Balder side sword. And you know what? I always have a little more respect for guys like this that brave it out in the forest by themselves. Now, granted, they are trespassers, but at the end of the day, at least they are trying to challenge themselves. Right? They don't need to have them and a ganker buddy just sitting here trying to camp for souls. But, I mean, either way, it's legitimate. It was all put in the game. And, you know, it is what it is. Now, speaking of what's legitimate, I really hope in Dark Souls 2 that they create an equivalent to the Darkroot Forest and the and the Forest Hunter Covenant. I really hope they make an equivalent. Because although some of you guys may hate the forest, you may absolutely hate it, there's guys like me who enjoy the challenge. Because I really enjoy the challenge. Right? Because like I said, I mean, it's fun enough doing random invasions, but I really like this area in particular. So, you know, when Dark Souls 2 comes out, I really hope they come up with an equivalent, because I really think this is an extremely fun covenant to PvP. Alright. So we're back at it. Alright, so either we have a high-speed host, and actually it looks like we have a high-speed host because this person is by himself and he just vanquished a dark spirit. Alright, so let's see what this guy's going to bring to the table. Alright, looks like he's rocking little to no poise. What is that? What kind of gauntlets are those? I can't really tell, but he's obviously using the Artorias breastplate with the Artorias shield. Okay, so I think that guy was relatively inexperienced. Number one, I would say he's inexperienced because of the shield. And actually, that's not really fair, because just because you use a great shield, that doesn't necessarily mean you're inexperienced. I just know that a lot of the newer players like to use those great shields. Okay, now this guy right here is a spammer. You see this? He's not incorporating anything else other than dark bead, dark bead, dark bead. And this is what I wanted to avoid. And actually I can't say I wanted to avoid it like, you know, I had to make a conscious effort, but this is what I wanted to showcase. That you can be a successful mage without spamming dark bead or spamming something else. That the way I see it, a good mage or a good caster build incorporates, when actually they supplement their attacks with castings. Right? It doesn't depend on castings. Now, if you're one of those 50 attunement guys, hey, it is what it is. Use your castings the way you see fit. And I'm not saying anything against the people who, you know, just like to spam. I'm just talking about in the brigade, like I've said plenty of times in the past, the goal is for me to stimulate thought with regard to people's tactics. And this is why I'll point things out. And the funny thing about it is, you know, oftentimes I'll get guys who'll leave comments in the comment section saying, dude, you're a hypocrite. because last year, 8 months ago, you said this, and now in 2013, you're saying something different. The funny thing about it is, there are a lot of guys who may watch one or two videos, and when they watch one or two videos, they will draw a conclusion based upon the one or two videos that they have watched or listened to. Now, I have over 160 videos. I'm not trying to say that in order for you to get a better understanding of me, you need to listen from all of them, But what I will say is, what some of you may not realize is that I've had a lot of these views from day one, starting from Just Another Day in the Berg. And I think is Just Another Day in the Berg Volume 1, Parts 1 or 2, where I basically talk about some of the same things that I'm talking about now. And some of the same things that I've talked about in other videos with regard to build creativity, with regard to katanas being used too much, with regard to a lot of things. If you guys have been with me from the start, and you guys have actually not only watched the footage, but listened to the commentary, you would know that all of my views are basically consistent with what they always have been. And to the extent that those views have changed, I would even talk about the changes in those commentaries. And this is why it's really funny when I read guys say, oh, you're a hypocrite. Last year you said this, and the year before that you said that. It's like, dude. Now, although I don't expect anyone to just sit here and take a full week to listen to and watch all 160 commentaries, although that is unrealistic, some of you guys make these comments out of ignorance, basically. And actually, I'm not saying ignorance as far as trying to insult somebody. I'm saying ignorance for what the definition of the word is. Basically, not knowing. All right? I've had these views since day one. And it was really apparent to me because someone was asking me a question. And, one thing that I would suggest for a lot of you guys that may have a specific question about something that I'm talking about in the commentary, kind of leave a time reference so I know exactly what you're talking about, especially in some of the older videos, because some of you guys will say, well, you said this, and I won't really understand what they're talking about. And the reason why I will ask for a time reference is because I'm pretty sure you guys understand context. In other words, something taken in isolation could mean something totally different than when you take it into context. Right? So in other words, if you just put, let's just say I made a comment, let's just say I said forest hunters are scum, and you just take that comment in isolation, well, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable for anyone to interpret that as to me saying that forest hunters are scum. But if you take it into context and listen to what I said before that and after that, you may have a better understanding to what I am talking about overall. And this is why in a lot of cases I say that a lot of people are not objective listeners or observers. Because an objective listener and observer would listen and pay attention based upon context and not just based on something taken in isolation. Alright, so enough ranting about that. Now, I know a lot of you guys may say, dude, you just kind of switch off to so many different subjects. Guess what, dude? These are long videos. Right? And when you're doing long videos and you don't necessarily have anything in particular to talk about, I mean, you can kind of get stuck with trying to figure out something to elaborate on. So this is what you'll find. Alright, so that was a GG right there. Got hit with the Tranquil Walk. But, I mean, it's all good. Tranquil Walk is there for people to use. I would rather get hit with a Tranquil Walk any day than to be faced against a person with infinite vitality. Right? Or using some of these trainer type deals that you can't really get in game, right? Like infinite endurance, you know, no bleed, infinite vitality, infinite stamina, and you know, some of these other things that people use. Alright, so let's see what we got here. Looks like we have a mage. Looks like he got parried. Need to get off it, dude. Look how much he's chugging. You guys notice that? That dude just chugged, I swear, like 5 Estus. And it's kind of entertaining to me when I see people do that, because basically when I see them down in that OJ, I basically see that as desperation. I'm like, man, these guys are really desperate. Yeah, go ahead, take that 600 damage. And like I said before, it's more of a challenge, in my personal opinion, for me to go ahead and use my castings without the benefit of these sorcery boosting items. And like I said, I'm not saying anything against people who need to use them. I just like to challenge myself. Right, I think the boost that you get from the twin crystallization, well, not twin, the 10 crystallization catalyst, I mean, that boost you get from there is good enough. I really don't need to supplement it. And it kind of takes the challenge out of it all, because, I mean, you definitely, this is, like I said before, 2v1s are not easy. I don't care how much of a hotshot you think you are. I don't care how good you are. 2v1s are not easy. Right? And I know in some cases watching videos can be to a degree misleading, because, you know, you'll see some of these forest montages where someone, I mean, they're just kicking behind left and right in the forest. You guys need to keep in mind that these are montages. Right? In some montages, people only include clips. They do not include full matches. And one of the reasons why I really don't include a lot of losses in my forest videos, like I said in the past, is because losing in the forest is almost a given when you're faced against gankers. Now, why do I say it is almost a given? Because when you are not using something like a Hornet Ring or your Power Within Red Tearstone type of situation, I mean, think about it. It's two guys who, you know, probably have, let's just assume that they both have 1700 vitality each. That's 1400 vitality that you have to extinguish by yourself, assuming that you are alone. For which in a lot of these cases, I am alone. So that's 3,400 total vitality, and that's assuming they only have 3,400. Because remember, guys, a lot of these guys are over-leveled. Actually, I can't say over-leveled. I'll say a lot of these guys are high-level. Right? So, in other words, I'm just basically talking about guys who are around my soul level and who stop at 1,700 vitality. We're not talking about some of these guys who are like, you know, max level or level 400 or level 500 and have like 99 vitality. We're just talking about guys who, you know, kind of similar to me, have 1,700 vitality. That's a lot of vitality that you have to get rid of when you're by yourself. So it is not an easy task. I don't care how good you are, for a lot of different reasons. Think about it. Some guys, you know, maybe they may have one-shot capabilities. Other guys, maybe they're using Hornet Rings. You can lose for a wide range of reasons. So that's why, I mean, I really don't see losing as being a big deal in the forest, because there's a myriad of ways that you can lose. You know, maybe you got one-shotted. You know, maybe you got two guys that are, you know, using Hornet Rings. You know, I mean, there's so many different reasons. So this is why whenever I'm in a forest, I think it's more entertaining. Forest hunting in particular, I think it's more entertaining to include wins. Now that's number one. Number two, I think that these forest hunting videos would serve as inspiration to a lot of these new PvPers and new forest hunters. Because think about it. Let's say you're brand new to Dark Souls and PvP in particular. And let's just say the Forest Hunter Covenant is your first covenant. And after losing a few times to some high-level guys, you may say, man, this is really discouraging. I'm kind of done with this. Because I've been there before. right? When I first played the game, I've been a forest hunter and have been discouraged on many of occasions because I was being ganked by the trespassers. But after watching a few vids from other people and seeing how successful one could be in 2v1 situations, it basically motivated me to try harder and stick with it. So that's another reason why I like to upload these forest hunter videos. Because, you know, I know there's a lot of guys that are relatively new to PvP. And in addition to being relatively new to PvP, they're also new to forest hunting. And being in these situations where they're always faced against these higher levels or multiple people, it can really be discouraging. So I figured, I said, you know what? If I can kind of showcase several videos, not just clips of my best moves, and when I say clips, I'm talking, you know, segments of a full match, right? Because in other words, there's a difference between uploading a full match and uploading a clip. A clip is, let's just say I do back-to-back. Okay, let's just say I'm in a 2v1 situation and I do back-to-back parries. And I highlight only the back-to-back parries, but I do not include the full match. That's basically a clip. But what I like to do is include the full match so you guys can see how I deal with the matches from beginning to end. When I engage, when I disengage, what tactics I use, you know, whether I backstab, whether I try to retreat, when I try to use the take one hit and parry method with katanas and some of these other fast swinging weapons. Because I really think it would serve as inspiration for a lot of these new PvPers and relatively new forest hunters. Alright, so enough about that. Now, once again, I know I thanked a lot of you guys in part 1 for all the support that I received during my 3-week hiatus. But I also like to give a huge, tremendous thanks and show of appreciation again, because I mean, my channel has really grown. March will mark the year mark basically for my channel. Now, I had an account since 2006, but I didn't really start uploading videos until last year, and it was only after watching a few commentators. Actually, New Gaming was one of the first inspirations. Ego Zeno, that guy, I mean, I watched a ton of his videos and a few others. Unfortunately, he doesn't really upload anymore, but he was definitely one of the ones that kind of motivated me to start uploading videos. And after a full year of multiple videos, tons of commentaries, and a few montages, I mean, I have just reached the 6,700 subscriber mark. So I am so thankful and very proud of all my supportive subscribers. And I am very much looking forward to when Dark Souls 2 come out, and hopefully it will continue to grow, because I will definitely stay with the aim and goal of focusing on PvP once Dark Souls 2 is released. Alright guys, well, that's it. This is the end of part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. That will be the last part of the 3-part series. Until then, Martyrs Brigade is